Hey, what's up guys? It's Jay with Sharpen Creations, and in this video we're going to revisit a tool review that I did about a year ago on the Diamond Cross FastTrack sharpening system for chisels and plane blades from a company called MPower Tools. Now in that video I outlined that the FastTrack sharpening system streamlines the sharpening process and takes the complexity completely out of it. It's great for those mid-project sharpenings where you just need to get your chisel or plane blade sharp and get right back to your project. Now, the folks at MPower Tools have decided to release a second version of this product called the MK2, so I figured this would be a great time. Let's dive in and let's take a look at the innovation that they put in the second release of this tool. Check it out. So the first thing I want to talk about in this review of the Diamond Cross FastTrack version 2 is what you get when you buy the bundle kit. Now the bundle comes with, the first thing here we see is the jig itself. You've got your carriage on top, your base plate on the bottom. You get an anti-slip grip mat right here. You get an eraser as well, and this eraser is great because if your stones after some use have some dirt on them, you easily use this eraser and just clean them up nice and easy. It comes with a screw, and that screw goes through a hole right here in the base plate of the jig, and that allows you to affix the jig itself to either your workbench or to a bench hook board. You get the carrying case, which allows you to fit all this stuff conveniently right inside so nothing gets lost. And then you have your diamond stones here. All right, so real quick, I want to talk about the diamond stones that come with the FastTrack sharpening system. These diamond stones are synthetic diamonds embedded into a nickel-plated substrate. So what does that mean? When the stones get dirty, what you can do is you first want to take that eraser and you want to try and remove the debris and the shavings from the stone. So if the eraser doesn't cut it and you still have some dirt or shavings on the stone, you can actually use warm soapy water to get the stone clean. Now, one thing you want to do is at the end, you want to make sure you get all the water off because you want to prevent rust from forming on here, which will impact the performance of the stone. So let's take a look at the new MK2 sharpener from MPower Tools. If we look at the base first, it's still a precision machined aluminum base that has a deburring plate section, has your mounting hole here so you can mount this jig directly to a workbench or to a bench hook board. The carriage rides on these sliding dovetails right here. On the back, we have the leather strap, which really helps finish off your blades nice, and you have your rubber feet. On the top of the base plate itself, you have this black clip right here. Now this is new to the MK2. This is called the center clip. So how this center clip comes into play is when it comes to smaller chisels like this 3/8 chisel. If I were not to use that center clip and register the chisel up against the shoulder here in the deburring section of the FastTrack base plate, when I go to sharpen, I'm really only utilizing half of that diamond stone. So with the center clip, what it allows me to do now is register that center clip up against this shoulder right here. Then you take your smaller chisel and actually register the chisel up against the center clip. This way, when you go to sharpen, now you're getting a full stroke of that diamond plate every time on these smaller chisels. It really speeds up the sharpening process. Now, if I have a larger chisel or plane blade that won't fit in the remaining area here, I can simply remove this center clip by loosening up this Phillips head screw and then simply pulling back on the center clip, and it comes off the base plate. Now I have the full section here of the deburring plate to use for my sharpening. Now if we look at the carriage itself, we have our standard 25 and 30 degree sharpening angles, but on the MK2 we now have a 27.5 and a 32.5 degree sharpening angle, which is really something great to add to this. Not all chisels come out at the same sharpening angle. I noticed on my Stanley Sweethearts or these Cobalt chisels, from the factory, they're different angles. So by having those additional angles, we now no longer have to, if something doesn't match perfectly, regrind this entire chisel down. We can really just sharpen the business end of the chisel here and get right back to work. Now I know a lot of you are going to ask, does 2.5 degree increments really matter that much when it comes to the sharpening process? So I put together a little test to actually show you how that 2.5 degree difference could really impact your sharpening. Check it out. Okay, so now I have the FastTrack sharpening jig in position 1, which is a 25 degree sharpening angle. All right, so if you take a look at my chisel, I'm using the Sharpie technique that we all know about, where you paint the end of the chisel black with a Sharpie, and what this will do is allow you to see exactly where you're sharpening. Check this out. I'm first going to start out on 25 degrees. So we just register the chisel up against the shoulder here, slide it in until it makes contact with the carriage. So now if we look at the results after the 25 degree sharpening, notice we're just removing the Sharpie from the top part of the chisel here. We're not touching the cutting end at all. Okay, so I've gone and set the FastTrack to position 2, which is 27.5 degrees, and we're gonna go ahead. I've painted the chisel back over again, and we're gonna sharpen this one again. Okay, and if we look at the chisel, the black part is still down at the cutting edge. We have not touched the cutting edge, and we're actually cutting further up. So we know that sharpening at 27.5 degrees is still not affecting this cutting edge. Okay, so now I've changed the stone. I've just switched it around, so we're in position 3, which is 30 degree sharpening angle, and I'm gonna sharpen this chisel real quick. Okay, and if we take a look at this chisel, we've removed more down towards the edge of the chisel, but if you notice, there's still a black line here, which means we have not been touching this edge of the chisel. So that sharpening has really done nothing to affect our cutting surface. All right, so I've painted the chisel back over so the entire surface is covered. I've switched the stone to position 4, and that's 32.5 degrees in the sharpening angle. So let's go ahead and give this one a shot. So now if we look at the chisel on the 32.5 degree sharpening angle, you notice on the heel of the chisel, we still have the black Sharpie, but right at the cutting edge of the chisel, you see that silver surface where the Sharpie's been removed. Now at 32.5 degrees, we're actually sharpening that cutting edge. Now, one great thing about the FastTrack sharpener that you don't get with other jigs is this deburring plate right here. Now what that's for is when you're sharpening, now if I zoom in here, if you look right on the edge here, you see almost some wire or some shavings hanging off the edge here. That's the burr that forms as you're sharpening your chisel. So what we want to do is we want to remove that burr before we put this chisel in use. All right, so to get rid of that burr, all you do is you take your chisel and you run it across the deburring plate like this. That removes the burr from the back of your chisel, and then you flip the jig over. Using the leather strop, you just strike your chisel across the leather strop a couple times. And now your chisel's sharp, the burr is gone, and this is ready to go back to work in your project. So hopefully that last demonstration really shows why having those additional sharpening angles on the FastTrack MK2 system really is essential to the sharpening process. You know, from my own personal experience, when I get different chisels from different manufacturers, they're each sharpened at a slightly different angle. So by having these additional angles, I don't have to do a complete regrind of the chisel. I can simply sharpen to the angle that it comes from the manufacturer and then get right back to work. So truly, they've made a great tool even better. One thing else you're going to notice on the new carriage itself are these ergonomic handles on the edges here. If we look at the original FastTrack sharpener, you'll notice it doesn't have those ergonomic handles. And when you hold the carriage like this to sharpen, this hard edge really starts to kind of dig in a little bit into your palm. So by adding these ergonomic handles, it really makes the sharpening process extremely comfortable. You still have on the bottom the nylon strips which ride on this sliding dovetail right here, which allow this carriage to move back and forth really effortlessly and make the sharpening process really smooth. So really that's it guys for this video. I appreciate everyone watching and sticking through to the end. I know there's a lot of information in here, but there's been so many innovations made to the FastTrack sharpening system that I really felt like I needed to put all that into one video. So hey, as always, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you know someone who could use this jig or would appreciate the information, share it with them. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please, I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one.